Oh, we're live and we're on. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm very glad to be here in front of you all, and welcome to the beautiful Bitev Teatar. My name is Slaviša Repac. I am co-founder of a voice acting studio that's specialized for video games, or games in general. And yeah, we can see this beautiful logo behind us. The studio name is Sensible Shouting, and we're also a member of the Serbian Games Association. It is my great pleasure that together we will conclude this truly phenomenal event here tonight. Our tonight's lecturers are people who have completely changed the perception of the gaming industry in all segments and at all levels. People who accomplished global phenomena and some of today's greatest technology giants. People whose achievements make us wonder again and again, what's next? Our first announcer today, actually our first spokesperson today, comes from SGA themselves. So today, you had the first-hand opportunity to see what is next for the Serbian Games Association. And in the past 4 years of their work, our hosts, a group of amazing people, have gathered everything that represents the future, perspective, and expertise of our gaming ecosystems. From month to month, SGA is working hard to expand, develop, and continuously enrich our community, connecting it with the world as can be concluded with pleasure, present at this conference today. We are about to find out how the previous working year in the association went. The first lecture of the evening is the exclusive premiere of the SGA annual report for 2021. Please, a big round of applause for the SGA Executive Manager, Kristina Janković Obućina.
Wow, just like a Zoom call. Thank you, Slaviša, you make it look so easy. Yeah, you do. So first of all, thank you all so much for joining us here in Belgrade, especially to those of you who came from abroad, but also to our friends and members from the Serbian ecosystem. You have truly made this day so much more amazing than we could have hoped for, so thank you again so much for that. Now, sort of a leitmotif of today's conference has been us exchanging ideas, findings, mistakes, why not, from our mutual ecosystems. All of this in order to showcase the best practices so we can implement them and improve in turn our local ecosystem, but after that the regional one, and in the end the European one. Now, I'm sure all of you from the industry will agree that one of the best ways to support this growth is by reading what's encoded in hard data. Now, the best way to do that is, of course, through a report, but let's start from the beginning. When the SGA was formed, actually exactly 4 years ago, in March 2018, not even the founding members and companies had any idea how many teams are working on games, how many people worldwide are playing games from games made in Serbia. So we were looking around to see what other more mature associations were doing. And right off the bat, we realized that we need to make an annual report of our own. So we made a very detailed questionnaire. We sent it to all of our members. They reciprocated our efforts and in turn gave us all of the data we were looking for very openly. So the result of that was the first ever Serbian gaming industry report. The results, of course, blew us away. We had no idea there were so many talented people working on amazing projects, and actually these are the people laying the foundations of everything you have seen here before you today. And now, 4 years later, we have the 4th annual Serbian Gaming Industry Report. We will look at some data and numbers from it. I would like to highlight the most important ones. The report will be available in its entirety next week online, but you guys actually have a unique chance to be the first ones to see the results. So these findings and data will give us some insight into how the industry works and grows. And also, I invite you not to just look at the data and store it somewhere in the back of your mind. Wow, there's a lot of people there, up there as well. But also to sort of try and read between the lines and maybe figure out a way to turn this data into actionable items and maybe initiatives, projects, and programs we can work on together. These are the staples of the report. 2,200 people are employed in the industry. 30% of these are women, and this still makes us the #1 country in Europe by this statistic. These people work in 130 companies, teams, and studios. They have made 35 games in 2021, and of course, needless to say, mobile still remains the #1 platform when it comes to revenue. And speaking of which, the entire turnover of the Serbian gaming industry in 2021 was 125 million euros. And out of these 130, actually already 110 are our members. Now, if we delve a little bit deeper, you can look at the map. Even if you're not from Serbia, you can see that the main hubs where the majority of the action is happening are Belgrade, Niš, and Novi Sad. Roughly 2/3 of our members have registered LLCs. We were actually hoping that this will change from the past year, but it didn't. Later on, we will see maybe what are some of the reasons for this lack of growth. But something that changed for the better is actually the amount of studios offering services related to the gaming industry. So now we have studios and teams doing voiceovers, as we've seen, studios developing their custom engines, studios working on playable ads alone. So there is a whole plethora of expertise coming from Serbia. Now, here are some of the highlights I've chosen, and we will do this for every slide. Almost 60% of our members are developing original IPs. Now, I really hope this will finally put to rest the notion that teams here are mostly doing outsourcing. What needs to improve is definitely decentralization. We were actually hoping that the pandemic will fix this, but the only thing that changed is that bigger companies opened up their hiring processes, so they were able to hire people from all over Serbia, which is amazing. But we need to find a way to inspire and give the right tools and resources to smaller teams, those in the beginning of their journey, because we need to see more exciting projects sprouting in unexpected places, because this is where we get fresh perspective from. Now, when it comes to revenue, we have already mentioned the main piece of data, and this is actually the first thing we get asked by the media, which is understandable. So to repeat again, the turnover of the Serbian gaming industry in 2021 was 125 million euros. But there is a lot more to be dissected when we speak about the revenue. For example, 60% of our teams are being financed by direct sales. This means that their products are out there, they are successful, and they can be independent solely based on their projects and products. And they can continue working, maybe expand the team, work on the next project. That is something we want to see more and more. Then another thing that changed is that more and more teams are preparing applications for local Serbian, European, and global funds. This means that they are thinking in advance, which is not something we have seen lately or up until now. And we hope it's a direct result of our efforts to sort of educate them and maybe wake up the business parts of their brains. When it comes to the highlights, we already said it's the revenue. And when we speak about things that need improving, we come to the topic of investments. Only half of the teams who were actively pursuing investments in 2020 actually raised investments. This means that all of the teams that are actively pursuing investments this year, and that is actually a record of 45% of our respondents, need to prepare a lot more seriously. And if there are any investors in the audience or listening to our live stream, they will, usually look for rounds of around 500K, and we know this would give them the independence and peace of mind to dedicate their time and efforts completely to finishing their projects. When it comes to talent, one thing that changed is that a lot more of our members employed people directly from universities, so college graduates. And the reviews are mixed. Actually, most of them are reporting that these young people lack the technical skills. They are not familiarized enough with the tools they need to be using, so they need to invest a lot more time to onboard them, which we know is, time-consuming, and it wastes time out of the pipeline. So this is actually a nod to the educational part of the ecosystem. We need to either change the curriculum or open up more programs dedicated to gaming. And one thing that's equally as important is to inspire teams and encourage them, teams and individuals, to start working on their own projects as soon as they can. This is how they get to know the tools, and we all know how fastly these are changing in the industry. And probably the number that drew your attention immediately is that our teams will roughly open 450 positions this year. How will we fill these? Honestly, nobody knows. This is the problem that everyone is facing globally in the industry, and again, we need to work together to figure out best ways to do this. Top 3 talent hardest to hire are producers, monetization specialists, and game designers. Now, why did I put this in the good column? Because these are no longer artists and developers. It seems we have moved on past this first evolutionary phase, and we are now on the lookout for more specific types of expertise. And of course, what needs to improve is us finding a way to nurture more talent. We know this is a long-term battle, but we need to lay some foundations as soon as possible. When it comes to games, the situation is more or less the same every year, and I think we are on par here with the rest of the industry. Unity and Unreal dominate, C++, C#, genres are pretty evenly distributed, but what's the biggest highlight for me, and I think the highlight of the entire report, is that Serbian games have been bought and downloaded 370 million times globally in 2021. But what needs to improve? Only, and I choose this word very deliberately, only 35 games have been published. Now, this means one of two things. Either, one, teams are working on more complex projects that take longer to finish, or two, they give up on the projects. They lose inspiration, they are lacking the funds, the talent, the knowledge. And unfortunately, considering we are living in the mobile era of the gaming industry, I would say it's the latter, which is maybe harder to fix. Again, it's on us collectively to figure out how to support these new teams, and all of you know how hard it is when you're just starting out. So we need to create sort of a safe space for them in the industry, a safety net, allow them to fall and to continue and try again. So we would definitely like to see at least these 41 games that are currently in development be published by the next report, and maybe even more. The ecosystem part of the report always shows that the vast majority of our members and the ecosystem are very optimistic about the future. But that doesn't change the fact that each year, year after year, report after report, people are reporting the same hurdles they face. And they expect the same types of support from the same types of stakeholders. So these are some of them. Some of the support they expect from the state, and also the main factors that negatively impacted the growth. We have mentioned, of course, lack of talent, lack of funds, but also complex red tape, and maybe impossible customs conditions. It is still virtually impossible to import dev kits into Serbia, which means that all of the PC projects are unportable, if that's a word. So we are losing a very large portion of the market, but also they're losing the chance for greater visibility on these platforms. In the report, you will also be able to look at the trends table. As you see, all the units are steadily increasing year after year, except the number of games published. So this is pretty alarming, I would say, and we need to work on it. You will be able to look at the table when the report is out in more details, but these are definitely the key takeaways. Like I said, teams need our support, especially those just starting up. Talent is going to be a huge problem in the future, short term and long term. Service providers are emerging, the ecosystem is maturing. Teams, as always, needless to say, need our support to gain more visibility here, but also globally. And a lot of support is not only needed, but expected from certain stakeholders. Now, when the report is out, besides looking in more details at the data, you will be able to see a very detailed overview of all of our members, their projects. You will be able to read expert articles written by guest authors specifically for our report. You will be able to look a bit deep, to dive a bit deeper into the ecosystem and also familiarize yourself with the educational opportunities in Serbia. There are some very exciting news there, but I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. And that would be it. The report is out next week. Thank you so much, and let's build exceptional gaming ecosystems.
Boom. Thank you, Kristina, for this beautiful, beautiful presentation. I enjoyed watching it, even though from a layman's standpoint, I have no idea what she was talking about. But I'm sure you guys at least got the gist of it. Now, we're going to try to go from a local perspective to a perspective that actually covers the entire globe. Now, what does the gaming industry look like today in the eyes of a giant like Google? How fast do the trends change? To what extent has competitiveness in the placement of games become chaotic? And how to recognize a talent, a project, or at least just an idea that deserves attention in all this chaos? Is the metaverse really coming to us? And will the gaming industry obey it and change from the roots up? At the moment, there is no better person who can give us answers to these questions than our distinguished guest, Tobias Knoke, head of Google's gaming department for Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Mr. Knoke, it's a great pleasure and privilege to be here with you, and I believe that I speak for everyone when I say that we can't wait to hear what you have to say on the topic. A big round of applause for Mr. Knoke. Thank you.
Dobro večer. That's almost all of my local language skills. So sorry, I will switch back to English. But thank you so much for having me here tonight. My name is Tobias Knoke. I'm based in Berlin. And at Google, I look at our strategic partnerships with the gaming industry in EMEA. First of all, I have been at a couple of conferences in my life, mostly before the pandemic, and this is an amazing one, so thanks a lot to SGA. I think you're doing a very, very strong job here, and I'm happy to be here. So, in the last 2 years, when we were entering, this like what we call pandemic and all these type of restrictions and lockdowns we had, I think we have changed the ways we work, the ways we live, but also a bit the ways we are playing games. And that is something I would like to discuss a bit more tonight. That's why my presentation is being called Navigating the New Normal in Gaming. So we will have a quick look at what has been changing in the last 2 years. And then, of course, also a little overview of what products and solutions we are developing on the Google side to help you as game developers and business makers to thrive in that environment. But before we're going to do that, let's have a little look at this guy over here, who is, for me, basically like kind of a proxy for what has happened in the last 2 years. So maybe just quickly hands up who has played amongst us in the last 2 years. And don't be shy, I know it's a bit of a trivial game, right? I did it myself, right? I think there was a time where we all said, okay, whatever, now I'm playing this game too. But I think it was a great example of how strong games can rise when it comes to engagement. This little game here came up with almost 500,000 concurrent users on Steam and had a very, very strong success. And to me, one great example in the last 2 years, how quickly engagement can rise in the world of gaming. But there was another example, which I'm sure everybody is aware of, which is, of course, from Epic, who did a phenomenal job in bringing the whole value of culture more and more to gaming. I think in the last 2 years, other industries such as TV or music have actually seen that gaming is a very, very strong platform. I think before the pandemic, they were looking a bit down on gaming, not sure what that is. Now, knowing that you can have concerts and video games and you have 46 million views in Fortnite watching Travis Scott within 5 days compared to the last U2 tour, which were 7 million visitors in 2 years, suddenly the music industry is investing into the gaming industry, and suddenly they're, oh, yeah, this is actually a very, very big thing out there. So engagement, culture, impact, but then there was another impact we have been seeing in the last 2 years as well, and that was more on the real world side. So there were some supply chain challenges, and whoever has more technical knowledge than I do might be knowing what's happening here in the back. So that's somebody who has programmed a bot to get his or her PlayStation 5. I hope the person has got their PlayStation 5 now. But I think just another example of how things have been changing in the last 2 years, and frankly, it's still a challenge. So that's a bit about some examples about the new normal in gaming, but all of these things have also translated into some very, very staggering numbers. So one of them is that there are now more players than ever before. 3 billion players are out there across all different platforms. And more than 50% of that revenue is in mobile gaming. And speaking about revenue, which is of course something we all strive for, we all looking at, there is more than 180 billion revenue globally when it comes to the gaming industry across all platforms, but that's excluding the monetization through ads. So much for what we have been seeing so far. We thought these numbers and these insights are nice, but maybe we can go a bit deeper. So we teamed up with Newzoo and did some more research on what has happened in the last 2 years. Because we wanted to know what has actually happened on the player side in the last 2 years. Who were the people playing all those games? And on the one hand, you can see here 80% of all the players in the last 2 years across all platforms were what we call veterans, so people who have played already before February 2020. That's when many lockdowns started. That's for us the beginning of what happened in the last 2 years. And those veterans have been driving lots of engagements. You can see here 53% of them were playing more and more. But I would love to shift your attention a bit towards the new and returning users. So this is about players who have never played a game before, or users who stopped playing, but then starting February 2020, they thought, okay, maybe I play Among Us or something else. And this is, to me, a very interesting audience, because if you're a game developer and you want to reach new customers, this is a segment of players who are actually still looking for their game. They might be a bit more open to try new games compared to the veterans who have been probably playing their favorite game for the last 5 to 10 years. And also, from these new and returning players, actually 73% spent money in the games, which I think is a staggering number, because we often think, okay, people who are new to games, maybe they will never ever spend. No, actually they do. And on top of that, it's also a very interesting demographic if you think about the fact that 53% were female and 32% were younger than 25 years. So if you're developing a game, just have a think, at least from my perspective, whether you can also attract this audience or not. Because there's also one more good news about these new and emerged players. They are here to stay. So together with Newzoo, we basically found out that 65% of these players who were new and who returned to gaming want to continue playing, and they want to continue playing maybe even more. So much for the last 2 years. I will stop talking now about it because it was not such a nice time actually. Let's look a bit more ahead. Let's look more what's coming up in the future. One thing we have done is we actually asked almost 17,000 gamers in 7 markets globally, what are they expecting for 2022? What will they do more? And as you can see on the left side, there's a very, very strong bias and perception towards streaming and esports. So this is something players seem to expect, seems to want to do. And right after this, there comes cloud gaming. So at least probably a strong interest in what is happening there, what type of games can I play, and so on and so forth. As well, moderately high interest into PC console, mobile games, spending medium. So I think we all need to continue working on showing the value why it makes sense to spend in a game, or even why to play a game without spending in it. Also, these numbers were basically derived before latest developments. So if you think about inflation or maybe financial crisis, that's not included here in these numbers. So we thought that's nice, but maybe we can go a bit deeper. So we also try to distill some of the key themes and key trends for 2022. And when looking at that, we were finding some novel trends, some trends which have been there before, but they're even stronger right now. And also, there are some industry developments I think we just need to discuss moving ahead in 2022. So new trends. New trends is an example of gaming becoming more and more social platforms. So there are a handful of games which are social platforms already, but we do think, based on the data, that it will become a role for more and more titles out there. So before talking about the message, just a quick context of how to read the slide. So in the gray bar, let's look at traditional social media. In the gray bar, you basically see that 41% of users have increased their activity in 2020 on traditional social media. And moving ahead in the future, 27% want to increase their activity again. So good times for traditional social media. But if you look at the other categories here, number 2 and 3, that is actually about gaming. And that is not only about playing the game, that's actually just joining a game to meet friends, meet clan members, meet strangers. And to me, it's an interesting point of view that people are just joining the games to hang out with each other, and they will do this more and more and more. Let's look at some more trends of when it comes to the acceleration of trends, so trends which happened there already, but we see more and more when we ask users, when we do market research. One of them is that users demand multi-platform experiences. So I think this was already a technical feasibility for some time, but the key difference is now, I think, that users want to play their favorite IP, want to play their favorite title, also on another screen. And of course, there are different ways to do that. One of them is cloud gaming. So cloud gaming is on the rise as well. The numbers here look pretty small, of course, but I think it's just the tip of the iceberg and part of a transformation which will just happen bit by bit. But once we are seeing more products out there, more titles out there, it will definitely come to life, and it's something users want to have, users are expecting. So let me finish with the little prediction of 2022 and beyond, with some of the opportunities and challenges we are seeing in the market for gaming. I just was at GDC 2 weeks ago, and some of these things were basically talk of town, but I'm sure they were also being discussed today. One of them is obviously the market consolidation, which is still ongoing. There are very big players acquiring smaller studios. There are also mid-sized companies acquiring other studios. I think no matter what type of company you are part of, you should have a strategy for this. So you should know where your ship is sailing. Whether you want to get acquired, whether you want to stay independent, it is just something where you need a strategy and you need to think long-term on that. Another thing we have been seeing more and more, that users are getting more demanding when it comes to privacy. So the gaming industry is maturing, so users are as well, and they want to know what is happening with their data, what is happening with all the different information as a game developer, and we all developers, business makers, and platforms have a responsibility in that. And then we also see a lot of emergence of new business models. One of them, subscriptions. So subscriptions, as an example, within a game could be like a battle pass, subscriptions across a portfolio of games, or across a whole platform, whether it's mobile, whether it's PC console, or the cloud. And then there is another emergence of new business models, and I think it took me now 12 minutes to talk about NFTs and blockchain gaming. So I think with this, it's a great example of innovation. There's a lot of funding in the market, and there are a lot of ideas in the market. We are seeing some great examples. We're also seeing some concerning headlines. For me personally, NFTs and blockchain gaming is a bit like drinking tea. Ideally, you wait and have patience, and then you can enjoy it. And if you drink it too early, it probably doesn't taste that good. I think, on the other hand, just also to be fair, 15 to 20 years ago, many people out there were saying, free-to-play will never really work. This is not a good business model. Nowadays, more than 80% of all the revenues in gaming globally are coming from free-to-play. So I would say let's have a balanced view on that. I think the industry is learning. We are observing this on our side as well. And we will also see what type of games we might be talking about in the next 3-4 years when there's hopefully no pandemics anymore, but just cool conferences like this one. So much for the last 2 years and also looking ahead. I still want to spend a little time on the various things we are doing on the Google side to cope with this, but also to enable game developers and publishers to make the most out of the opportunity in gaming. So we have several solutions on the gaming side when it comes to publishing and distributing your game, discovery when it comes to working with creators on YouTube or on the Google Ads side, and last but not least, providing a stable infrastructure for your game as well through Google Cloud. I won't have time to go into detail across all of these things, maybe later if we catch up, but I would like to just highlight 3 initiatives and products we have just recently announced. And all of them are basically based on the various trends and opportunities we are seeing here in the gaming industry. So one of the trends was multi-platform, right? That users out there do not only want to be dependent on one screen to play their favorite game. That is why on the Google Play side, since 76% of our mobile gamers told us we would love to play on a Windows PC or games as well, we started to roll out this January in selected markets Google Play games for PC. And with that, users can enjoy their mobile games on PC. Obviously, you have the opportunity for some more enhanced graphics, more controls and inputs in the system, and you can save all of the progress in the cloud as well. So this is just a way of enlarging your game experience and the joy you have on your mobile phone. But then there are also some games, when you develop them for PC and console, where there are some entry barriers, right? You need to buy a PC or console to get there. And if you're very unlucky, like the person with the PlayStation 5 bought, you might still be waiting for it. So from that perspective, we were also thinking the other way around. So Stadia has partnered with Google Cloud to bring a direct-to-consumer solution to the market called Immersive Stream. The idea here is that you as a game publisher can leverage that technology and allow players to try out and play games in the browser with just a click. They do not need to buy any hardware for that. If you want to find out more with the product side, nothing to do with multi-platform, but it has to do with the fact that users are demanding more privacy. So we recently announced Privacy Sandbox on Android because we want to be very, very supportive of the user's right in understanding what is happening with their data, getting transparency of who's collecting their data, and so on. So we already provided some improvement to the advertiser ID, but by announcing Privacy Sandbox on Android, we're going one step further. And our idea here is to collaborate with the ecosystem, to basically say, let's work together so that at the very end, we have a privacy-preserving path for users, developers, but also business makers and advertisers to build a sustainable ecosystem and also to have fun whilst playing the games and you feel safe as a user, because we do not believe in bluntly restricting existing technologies. We believe in having an open dialogue and working together with the ecosystem to get to the goal together. So much on the initiatives we are working on, and there are many more, but this is just like some highlights. I would like to close this little keynote with going back to where we are tonight. So the BTEV Theater, right? So first of all, it's a very, very cool venue. I think so far the coolest venue I was able to present was at G-Star, where there was an earthquake during the presentation. But I think this is now the next level, being in a church. But I think even more important here is to highlight what we are doing on the Google side to work with the local ecosystem, to our efforts to work with developers in Serbia and in the Adriatics. So, and as part of that, in 2019, we had our first ever Google App Hub event here in Belgrade, actually in this location. So this is a really cool location, or there's a very good sales manager, or both, right? But we basically had the opportunity to have 100 attendees here from 50 companies and had lots of lectures across various Google products. But also, our goal here was to listen and to get feedback and to understand what are the main asks from the community and what do they expect from us. And then again, the pandemic happened, so we had to put everything online. But we did it just as others as well. We were basically going online in a new normal, and based on many, many community requests and asks, we started to provide online webinars, sessions, and so on and so forth. And there are still 2 more to come regarding game launches and seasonal trends. So that's one of the things we're doing here, because we know with all the great products, it doesn't help if we're not here, it doesn't help if we are not talking to you, if we are not listening to you, if we are not learning to you. So this is what we do. But there's also another pillar in terms of that, because sometimes we think we can be most effective if we actually take ourselves out of the equation and just have a platform for developers to work together. And that's why we are supporting GameCamp. So GameCamp as a community platform and hub provides several ways for developers to get in touch with each other, whether it's through Slack, through webinars. We did a lot in the last 2 years, or basically we supported a lot of them. GameCamp had roundtables, so a lot of things. And I think the cool thing here, it's a community which is always on and always there for you. So very, very cool, and we're proud to be happy to support this. So if you're now thinking, this is quite interesting what Google is doing here in Serbia and in the region, I want to be part of this, I want to attend these type of events, I want to learn from that. We have here my local colleague, Mladen Lazic. You can stand up now very quickly. This is your spotlight now, yes. So if you want to come to the next events or you have any feedback, go to Mladen. Yes, yeah. So yeah, sorry for putting you on the spotlight, but at least I did all the presentation. So, so that is definitely important for us to hear directly from you. And with that, after talking to you about the new normal, the last 2 years, how they have been, what is coming ahead from the gaming side, what products and solutions we are working on, and also our commitment to help the local ecosystem here, I just would like to conclude with the fact that, again, in the last 2 years, we have been changing our ways of working, living, maybe playing, but I hope one thing we have not changed, and that is the need for social gatherings. And for that, I'm looking very much forward to later tonight having some drinks with you and yeah, get any questions. So thank you very much.
It's dangling. I need, sorry. Here. Thank you very much. Technical issues. Where would we be without them? Once again, thank you very much, Tobias. This was truly, truly something. Okay, the following story is, well, if you've ever been, well, in a position that you would like to start maybe on a mobile game or even at any game at all, this is a story that probably is something that you would definitely like to accomplish. And it's a story about the Slovenian company Outfit7, who are the home to, as we all know, Talking Tom. And if you don't know who Talking Tom is, are you from this planet? So yeah, the adorable cat that has won pretty much the hearts of every youngster in the world, or at least many of them. and of course, a lot of us who feel young in our hearts. And not only Talking Tom, but after the Talking Tom, we had one of another heroes from Outfit7, that's Angela, that got her own sequel, My Talking Angela 2, that arrived on mobile phones. And distributing the next chapter of a branched story like this one requires serious experience, requires a lot of strategy, and requires a lot of careful consideration. So, how does Outfit7 deal with all these, let's call them sweet torments? Well, the answer comes from the company's Senior Marketing Director, Nuša Gantar, and of course, welcome her with big applause. Nuša.
I love diving. I love the fact that when you jump into the water, all you can see is color. You look at the beautiful corals, you look at the really, really strange-looking fish. And the thing that I enjoy the most is actually the fact that when I jump in, I can breathe. You know, I don't choke to death. So I just breathe in and I breathe out, and I'm in pure meditation. But it's not necessarily always like that. Have you ever seen a panic diver? This is it, in all its glory. And the difference between the pure meditation underwater, the calm, the tranquility, everything, and the panic diver is actually just two things. First one is the learning, the training. And the second one is the buddy. That's the person that goes with you. So, this poor lady, it was me, in my last diving trip. We went down 30 meters deep in search of sharks. I know, who does that? And all of a sudden, there was this crazy, crazy current that got me and really started dragging me away from my group. Honestly, you know, I looked back, all I could see is the blue, the dark blue, the vastness of the ocean, and me being the meal for those sharks I was looking for. And the thing is, like, I went into complete panic. It's hard to admit it, but I was, you know. I went into the survival mode. All I could see is my hands shaking like this, and I had a reef hook, and I had my GoPro. And I turned them around, and I started climbing. Like climbing, really hardcore climbing, just like Mount Everest, but this was the bottom of the ocean's floor. I tried to get back to my group, and I was very unsuccessful at doing it. I didn't know what to do, honestly. All of a sudden, there's somebody grabbing me by the back. I got scared, I didn't know, and the next thing that I remember is being on the other side of the boulder. It was calm, zero current there, ironically, huh? I was saved, and the person who saved me was actually my dive buddy. I know what you're thinking right now. What the fuck does this have to do with my topic, you know? Like, rethinking distribution, really? But the thing is, it has to do, and it has to do a lot, actually. When we started as a company 12 years ago, you know, we were on a mission. We had the owners with a really huge vision to entertain the world in all the bright colors. We had exactly money for 6 months, and we started producing project after project after project. And the last one, you know, before going bust completely, was Talking Tom. You know the moment when you push something out of production, and it's a moment of relief, but it's also a moment when you're scared. What will happen? For us, luckily, it was just like downloads. Coming in, coming in, coming in. It was crazy, you know? Everyone was excited, everyone was partying, everybody was celebrating. But the fact is that with this joy came also the responsibility. What we wanted to do is the next big thing, obviously, right? You do one product and you're already thinking about the next one. So that was actually our focus for many years to come. Product comes first. And as a company of a lot of creatives, we had a lot of ideas. But the thing that we soon realized is that, yes, we have ideas. It's easy. I mean, it's easy, fairly easy to have good ideas at least. But it's hard when it comes to the actual execution of it. So this is where the struggle came. And we were focused on really, really perfecting the craft. So building product after product and actually making it to the finish line. Connecting the product teams, making everything work seamlessly. And we did. First was Talking Tom, then it was 20-something apps, and the last, our record-breaking My Talking Angela 2. So I could say with confidence that when it came to game production, we were kind of well-oiled machine by now. But when it came to distribution, actually, nobody knew this for real, but we had a joker up our sleeves. For us, that was cross-promotion. The thing that made us succeed in the beginning, so Talking Tom, it just added up. We had bigger and bigger and bigger audience, and with that audience, we could just, with the press of a button, push our new game outside, and we got our users in, as long as we stayed within the core audience. But the thing is, with our growing ambitions as the company, we also had growing goals. So we wanted to extend our user base, try something new, and we also wanted to retain the users that we already have. The thing is, it's hard. That's where we actually hit the wall, really, really banging on. And when you start venturing really outside, that's when you figure, our distribution is shit. We don't know what the hell we're doing. So the struggle is real, for us, for sure it was. And the fact was, even if we wanted to do something new within Talking Tom and Friends, try kind of a new genre, not the Tamagotchi style, we kind of made it with the runners. But everything outside of that, where we stretched also what we knew, who we knew our users were, we failed. We really failed. And when we tried with R&D, doing something completely new, a new IP or something, we failed again. We have proof for that. It's called Talking Tom Camp, it's called Skyrun, it's called Slime Squad Arena, and we had many, many more. So we had no cross-promotion to actually get there, to make it succeed. And the fact is, even though we made it product-wise, also those products were very polished, we failed in terms of product market fit. And this is something that was seen both in the in-game metrics and also in the conversions when it came to distribution. So the next thing, was a light bulb again. If idea is nothing without execution, then product is nothing without distribution. So the thing here is, we try to really fully understand this statement. And when you do, you need to first make them even partners. And when you do that, you actually even the playing field. You have better chances on the market. Why? Well, think about it. If I went to the product guys and they would the first thing they would tell me is, yeah, but if you don't have product, you have nothing, And they are right. On the market, if you don't have a product, then idea is nothing, yeah. And then if I went to the distribution team, they would say something along the line, okay, yeah, sure, you could have the best product on the market, but if no one knows it, if no one knows about it, if no one plays your game, and if you're unable to sell it, then it's just yet another product floating around in the vastness of the ocean that nobody cares about. So for us, it was no rocket science, really, but we did a simple thing. We went to the product team, we went to the distribution team, and first we listened, we really, really listened to both of them. But then we made them list better strategy. and that brings better results. So, for us, it was like that. Where did we start? It was horrible. Like, we started at the beginning from scratch, like everyone does. And the usual strategy that we actually had was a one that we would call passing the baton, you know, like first you do an amazing product, but then you give it at the very, very end to the marketing people, you know, and then just say, like, please do something, just sell it, you know, and we failed miserably doing so. So that wasn't a good approach, obviously. We had to rethink our approach. And we did. We made a new one. It was a holistic one where actually we wanted to make and choose the right steps at the right time to be aligned strategically across product and distribution. So for us, you know, like just as product development starts with a single idea, the important part was that distribution needs a seat at the table, literally sitting down at the table with the product guys discussing if this idea is viable on the market. So we went back to the drawing board. You know, we had a lot of questions, so we had to admit ourselves first that we don't know anything. We were asking questions like, why are we doing what we are doing at the moment? Why are we approaching things as we do? And honestly, we didn't really have a clever answer. The reason was just like, yeah, but we were doing like this forever, you know? We also thought about, like, are we addressing the right user base? Do we know really who our user is? And the answer was, like, within TTF, Tamagotchi, yeah, we thought so. But anything else, like, we had no clue. So the first thing that we had to do was put the foot in the door, you know, like literally. And that meant that we started working with product in the actual ideation phase. It was hard because no one from product wants you to be there, but when you show your value and how you can contribute, that's when things start to change. So essentially what we did was a new flow. We started connecting all the distribution departments with product. And we started working from the very beginning. So actually to start in the ideation phase, going through production together, going into the launch phase and beyond. This actually made sure that everyone actually understood the vision at every stage of the process. We were also able to test the ground. So at every stage, we were able to test the market and see if this is something that we should continue. Maybe at some stages at the beginning it worked, you know, and sometimes it just didn't, so we canceled it early. It helped in many ways. We created new touch points, we started sharing more knowledge. We also created new practices, and in the end, aligned strategic approaches. One thing that came out of this is also a new role, product marketing. We didn't have it in the company. And product marketing for us is the connector. It's actually the person who is the driver of the whole process. They're there to connect product and distribution and actually sit on two seats. In the beginning, they join the game production team, and they're there together with them, trying to figure out if the vision is clear enough, trying to figure out if there is market potential, bringing them all the user knowledge they can. And then they move seats. They go to distribution, you know, and they bring all that knowledge and share it with everyone. This helps us to create what we call a game distribution strategy, where everyone is involved and we can leverage all the insights. So what worked for us? If you're struggling as we were, you know, and we are still, I think this is a never-ending story, ask yourself, why? First, the simple question. Why are you here? What are your goals? Do you really know the user? You can go really deep with a user, but the thing is, you have to keep it simple. Because when you start communicating across the production line and also going throughout up until distribution, everyone needs to understand everything, really, really understand. The thing is also that we had to admit to ourselves that we don't know shit. And this is a hard one to swallow, because when you have people who have been either within the company for long or objectively they're great experts, but haven't ventured in some of the genres, you have to admit that you don't know. And that's okay, It's completely okay to not know stuff. And when you do that, there's this big relief, and everyone starts to communicate and work better together. I think the one that is the most important one is that you actually are not the executor of the distribution. You are co-creator. Product and distribution are equal partners, and they're making a game together. And the one thing that we like to do, at least at Outfit7, and I know everyone is, who doesn't, is have fun. And this brings and sparks new ideas, it brings joy, it makes people feel better, make them more creative, and actually learn better. You can learn, you can test, you can make mistakes, and you can do it your own way. So remember my diving story and the difference between training and the body? In distribution terms, we could call them flow and trust. In diving, the training or the flow are the steps that ensure that you are safe underwater. It also ensures that you're able to communicate with your diving buddy. And the buddy there, he's the trust. He is the one who literally saved my ass in the end. And it's the same in distribution. So what we did was the flow, the steps, strategic steps that you take to make sure everyone is connected and that you actually make it to the finish line and succeed. What we didn't really expect is that with this better understanding of different teams between stakeholders, we actually created trust. And with trust, that's when we made it happen, actually. So you could have the smartest people in the world, geniuses, but if they cannot communicate well and collaborate well together, you most probably won't succeed. You might, a few times, but you can also fail. We did. For us, this was a major transformation within the company. Starting to collaborate, working together, just destroying the walls. And so I would just wrap up with, yes, absolutely build the flow, but then trust the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Nuša. This was truly a roller coaster for me, personally. Fear of sharks in the depth. It started off rocky, but at the end, even I, who is not working on projects and games and such directly, got really inspired and had some really good ideas for my future endeavors. So, yay. Okay, well, our final lecture for today is, is probably going to be the culprit for the next situations that you might come up with where you are unsure if you're looking at a person or you're looking at their CGI copy. When you take a look at the screen and you're like, what is this? That feeling, as most of you know, and well, I hope all of you know, is called the uncanny valley. I'm going to be honest here, it's not coming, it's already here. The only thing that we're thinking about now is that it needs to be populated properly. So brace yourself. That's something that we are going to talk about next. So the Hollywood project Matrix Awakens. As we know, this is much more than a strategic step in promoting anything, let alone like a sequel to the Matrix movies or something like that. But this project actually erased the boundaries between the film art and the art of creating video games, unleashing the full power of the Unreal Engine 5. But not just that. Also, and more importantly, all the invaluable talent of the company that was at the epicenter of it all, the Novi Sad's 3Lateral. So, are we entering an era in which interactive and linear content will become one? Will we be able to perceive reality with certainty in the near future? And how? We are talking about this exciting and somewhat frightening news with Vladimir Mastilović, who is Vice President of the Digital Humans Technology Department at Epic Games and the founder of 3Lateral.
Hi.
Hello, and enjoy.
Thank you. Okay, thanks everybody. This is my first event after the whole pandemic thing. It's, I have to say, not really frightening at all. I'm really glad to be here. It's just kind of feels great. We were really missing this, and you know, the whole atmosphere of people getting together, exchanging ideas. Well, that uncanny valley thing, I'm kind of actually hoping we get out of it. Actually, it's a bad thing to be in there. So it's a sort of, there's two cliffs, and the closer you get to full realism, there's a big chasm where the impression of the character is completely destroyed by this sort of proximity to reality. Did we achieve full photorealism? No, and we were completely aware of that. And but the reason why we want to talk about this project is exactly this sort of blurring the lines between interactive and linear content, or film, or stream series. This has been most of my career, because I was initially gravitating towards film, but then ended up being in games, because games at my time were more dynamic in the field that I was interested in, and now we came back to film. And this collision of film and gaming was something that has been discussed over like 10, 15 years ago, and I remember reading these things like we're reading about all-powerful AI these days, and thinking honestly, that's never going to happen. The games just can't render the 20, 30 hours per frame for the film. But it did happen, and I'm extremely grateful that that we were part of this project. I have to give credit where credit is due. It's true that our team in Novi Sad played a huge role in getting this done, but it was a tremendous effort across the whole of Epic Games in all of the studios. The engineering that it took to render a film on a gaming console was just incredible, and I'm a little bit disappointed even that when we looked at intro sequence with Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, it sort of looks like a film. I was sort of missing some element of it where we could do something interactive, at least change the camera angle. But I guess the language of the linear storytelling and interactive medium is yet to be invented. So this is, I think, call to action. Because innovation is not only in technology, but it's also in art, because this new media is here, and we need to figure out how to make the most use out of it. So now going to the kind of actual presentation. This presentation is going to be very light on technology. There's going to be other talks available freely to everyone to kind of go deep dive in tech, and I feel I've done this in similar events before. So what I want to kind of cover in this one is sort of the overall, what happened, what does it mean, and where does it lead to? So here we're going to cover the product that we are most proud of in Novi Sad is definitely MetaHuman. MetaHuman Creator is the first product that we've done, and what it does, it enables everybody to create a high-quality digital character asset. Normally in gaming, this is something that whole teams spend months on, sometimes even years, and they often also fail. And it was extremely rewarding when my 6-year-old kid was able to open the application and create a MetaHuman, which is like just a few years ago, this would be something like 250 man-days of specialist work. The other part is interactive linear content. We sort of covered that a little bit, and really I want us to think about the opportunities this will create, because especially if we keep talking about the growth of the local ecosystem, we have to be good at predicting what's coming rather than following trends. And I think that these days opportunities are many because they're opening themselves everywhere. And I think that here I can tell you about the one that I understand. So as presented, my name is Vladimir Mastilović. I founded 3Lateral. We are part of Epic Games for the last 3 years, now as a sort of fully integrated team. And our main responsibility is MetaHuman product and the value it brings to Unreal Engine ecosystem. Unreal Engine 5 has been released this week, and you'll see that MetaHuman there is one of the key elements of how you build your content, because you can't really build a story without the environment and the characters. And mission of our team is really to make that easy. Not an easy that we are trying to get rid of the professionals, but easy in that we want to invite storytellers who are storytellers in their spirit, but maybe don't have necessarily the experience, the knowledge, or the funds to tell these stories. We are designing our product so that the professional can also do a deep dive in and improve our technology. So that's sort of the philosophy that we're trying to follow. So the inspiration and goals for Matrix Awakens demo, our CTO, Kim Libreri, was a visual effects supervisor on all of the 3 original movies. And just accidentally, my career was largely inspired by Matrix movies, especially the first one, where not only that the story made a lot of sense to me, but also the effects were just pure magic. In the sense of effects from the 90s being magical, where there was not so much CGI, the magic behind the scenes was not known, and that was really cool in a way, because it keeps you wondering, keeps you trying to deconstruct how it happened. And now we're just waving hands, it's CG, and very soon it's AI. But I think we're kind of missing out a lot on that wonder. So one aspect of the MetaHuman specifically is that that we're really proud of is that here you see a slide where we see MetaHumans. They're all MetaHumans, people that walk in the simulated city streets, the main character player, the one that you actually play in the interactive part of the sequence, and our Hollywood stars that we've scanned. So of course they're not MetaHumans, but in technical terms they are. So what we've done is we have a special part of our team, which we call the MetaHuman Services, where we can calibrate the MetaHuman to somebody's likeness. And this is what we've done for Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss. So it's really interesting to know that in this simulated city, there was 35,000 MetaHumans just walking around the streets. And just to give you some perspective on this number, which doesn't maybe seem huge for a big city, we've estimated about 5 years ago that total number of digital human assets around the world was totaling to about 50,000. So having 35,000 just parametrically created, walking around, is actually pretty amazing. But I do want to see the future where this number is going to be in millions. So I mentioned the MetaHuman services and the way we're calibrating the actor. This is really the bit that I was like, whenever I was invited to talk about something, this is what I was talking about, and I stopped coming because I didn't want to repeat myself. I felt it's just like it was said. But just to kind of do a quick summary, we provide scanning services in 3D, 4D, light fields, and kind of various kinds of measurements that we do to understand the appearance and the motion of people. We create huge data sets to better understand, and it's never enough. Sometimes it's tens of terabytes, sometimes it's petabytes. But data is one, but how to make use of it is a whole different kind of problem. So what we do is we take all of that data, we process the measurements, we calculate the albedo, the specular reflections, the motions of the skin, and we're trying to learn the deformational model, and then we deliver a facial puppet where basically that just exposes the muscle contractions that you can activate either by hand or by iPhone using the AR-Kit, or if you have a professional pipeline, you can stream it and pipe it into that. So in a way, it's proposing a standard of how a digital human can be represented in real-time graphics. And of course, we've done, like with every special project that we do a lot of R&D to push the boundaries further. Things like 4D machine learning rigs, where instead of taking few dozens or 100 facial scans, we try to scan few tens of thousands of scans, and we try to learn the deformations of the complex nature of the human skin. I will not claim that we've done our job to the 100%. It's not there yet. But one thing that is extremely exciting is that it was rendering on a game console. So typically, this kind of demos are being done on a high-end PC, and often people would say, "It looks great," but nobody has money for a PC like that. But in this case, it was a widely available hardware that was relatively inexpensive and available to everybody. So then our co-star, this is, I think, despite Keanu Reeves being a great and cool guy, and that was a big face of our demo, I'm actually excited about this one, because this one doesn't exist. And it's completely parametric, it's completely synthetic. And what's even better, we've made her available to everybody about a year ago. So this character is called Ada, and she's a MetaHuman preset. MetaHuman preset is really when you don't have the time to tweak the parameters, you just want to download a character. And Ada was the first one that we've ever shown. And we've taken her and we made her into a star that is acting together with the, the biggest names in the film. So just to sort of demystify this a little bit and to reduce it down to earth just a bit, she is fictional, but the person that was driving her was real. So she's not some kind of AI actress, at least not yet. So, but I think even this, her being used as an avatar is really amazing. So Ada is a character that everybody can download for free and can be used in Unreal Engine 5 that can also be downloaded for free. So I think this is a sort of nice call to action. What was available to us is available to everybody, and we'd love to see what kind of experiences you can create with the same technology that we had access to. So I sort of want to kind of jump gears a little bit here and maybe not talk so much about the project itself, but also what does it mean. Because we hear these stories about the metaverse, and it's become a very popular word in the last couple of years, to the extent that I personally don't like it very much because it's just everything. So I just want to talk about how metaverse looks like from this perspective. And I think you'll see that it's actually a very concrete, very tangible thing that can exist. It's not something magic, and it's going to exist, and it's going to be really interesting what kind of opportunities this brings us. So one of the maybe a little bit more mundane realities when you do production of an IP is that you have to create your assets multiple times. So if you have a game and a film and a series and a commercial, you would imagine and you would expect that there is somewhere the central asset of Iron Man, and that anybody working on Iron Man IP can access it, but that's not the case. Of course, people are usually given just a reference, like an image, and they're forced to do everything again. So what we are working towards is that we enable, you can look at Unreal Engine as a game, yes, game development tool, but this game can be used in non-gaming applications, like the actual production. We've all heard about virtual production, right? So the virtual production really is the start of the process. You can create your assets, you can make them ready in some sort of a game that creators and director and actors are playing, and somebody else is taking a note of that game, and ultimately they produce an idea, a content, a film. So ideally, you would not start your production from scratch. You would use what you've got from there and basically just perfect it. Just do something on top to make it look better. And also, when you create a game, the similar story follows. So I think, for example, a Star Wars IP is a really good example because it's a very well-known virtual production project that we basically announced virtual production with. Star Wars had made their appearance in Fortnite as this sort of cross-IP shared experience, which I think is sort of speaking to some of what we've heard before from the previous presentation on Outfit7. Like this sort of cross-promotion is a really strong driver of the adoption. And then, of course, we can watch Mandalorian on Disney+, and we can also play Star Wars specialized games. So these productions have started utilizing this kind of process, but this is still in process. So I think we all collectively have to think about, well, what are the steps of making this into reality? So some of the small exercises that we're doing internally at 3Lateral in Novi Sad is we're sort of kicking off small storytelling projects where we are, playfully trying to discover this ourselves. So it was so funny when I was visiting Epic Games headquarters just before the virtual production was starting. I entered a huge room, much bigger than this, and there was a motion capture devices around, there was big computers all around. Somebody was walking with 3 sticks and 3 marker points, and there was a screen, and they could see the virtual world. And grown people were taking fighter jets from Star Wars and were literally holding them like this and walking like that. And it looked like kids playing, and it was actually a job that most people were paid for. so that was really fun, and those were like super early days. But I would really like to encourage everybody to try out these things, because they do start naive, and when you look them from the side, they look silly. But at the crux of this, there is a very specific problem that we're trying to solve, and that makes it really serious. So after the play is done, then we take our lessons learned and we see what is missing, and then we try to improve the technology. So Fortnite has been mentioned this evening. It's a big. Well, we like to think about it as a platform, because it's now much more than a game, because you can gather tens of millions of people to watch a concert, and there is also a lot of people creating content of their own and inviting their friends and experiencing this sort of ever-changing virtual world together. So it's meant to be a fun, positive place that is meant to just make people happy. So that's really what I enjoy about this vision. Other companies have also amazing visions of what metaverse can be. We've just recently seen what NVIDIA is proposing, like the digital twins of the entire world. All of that is amazing as well, and it's really inspiring. But this is our focus. This is our focus, trying to entertain people and get them together in something which is a nice, shared, collaborative, fun experience. So a little bit about, this is obviously a promotion, this slide, but we've just launched UE5. We've done our Matrix Awakens demo with UE5. It's a very honest demo, so it just kind of works in the way that we've demonstrated it. So our ecosystem is going to is trying, speaking about the problems that we're trying to solve, our ecosystem is trying to remove the overheads that a storyteller has today. So overheads like developing a cloud-based distribution platform, obstacles like matchmaking or anti-cheat systems or monetization systems, or it's not really, despite today's awesome cloud technologies, it's still not easy to distribute something across the world. There's a lot of engineering that needs to happen on the back end, and this is really what online services are for. And then ultimately, the project needs to be monetized and published, so this is what Epic Games Store is for. And we've just recently rebooted our dev community portals so that we kind of stimulate people to share their findings. And I'm self-taught in this, and my first teachings were at forums, just receiving knowledge from random people who are good enough to share it. And in that spirit, I think I try to follow down as well. So I think it's a really good, I think a lot of this can be intimidating at first, but I guess just one step at a time. So as part of this kind of shared learning experience, we are, I don't know if you've seen, but we have shared the entire simulated megacity as a free download that everybody can use. And so, what can you do with it? People do various things. It's been out for only a few days, but, I've seen Spider-Man finding its way into it, and, various other IPs people are experimenting. But what we've done with it, we have treated this city as a real location, and we went location scouting for our story. So it's a funny concept where, location scouting in an Unreal Engine scene, but it's possible because it's so vast. So then once we find the locations, we can change the weather system and time of the day, and we can employ Quixel database to make it, for example, more green, or basically with just throwing a bunch of assets in there, we can very quickly adapt it to our story. So my career started with content creation, and it was really defeating to spend something like few weeks on, I don't know, an object, or when I was trying to do hands, that was taking me 2 to 3 months, and when I was trying to do faces, that took me years because it was a bunch of failures and then some success later on. So I think this scene, together with the shooter sample game, is really enabling people to discover how does it feel to be a game creator, because that was really fun for me. I'm not a game designer myself, but it was really a revelation to make something which I could call my game, even though it wasn't really, but it was just an effort after a few hours. But the experience is really rewarding, and I think it can spark a lot of ideas. So what are we doing in this community apart from just being here and occasionally holding a presentation? So one concrete thing that we are doing and we will continue doing is accelerating selected few projects that we have resources for through our mega grant program. And we've so far have executed 4, right? I'm sorry? 5? Yeah. It's a fairly modest number, but we are taking every project with a great degree of care, and we're sort of committing to it like it's our own pitch. So we don't have a lot of bandwidth, to be honest, but please don't hesitate to reach out. It's always good to start a conversation. You can go to 3Lateral.com and contact us through our website, and your request will find its way to all the proper people. And again, I'm inviting you to download this free software and these free scenes and these free characters and these free assets. And if you have some spare time and you would like to fiddle around and assemble a scene which is easily looking good, then you can do all of this by going to unrealengine.com and downloading all of this stuff. And we are trying to be very open about how does it all work. The engine is open source. We don't keep any secrets, which is one of the things that I really appreciate working for Epic Games. So in a way, your success is our success. So just a sort of open invitation for that. So with that, that is it for this evening. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Vladimir. Wow. Sure, I can press buttons. I've been known to do that. Not in like thermal nuclear plants and such. But yeah, well, with this wonderful, wonderful presentation and this spectacular look into our near future, we are at an end of this fantastic event. I hope everyone has enjoyed. And dear guests from abroad, in front of you is Friday night in Belgrade. Most will agree that it's truly a spectacular experience, and I hope you don't miss the chance to experience that as well. For everyone who has been attending, thank you very much. I hope you have learned something. I know that I have, and I'm very much looking forward for what comes next. With that, thank you. Enjoy the night.